Hello and welcome back to Rock Records Reviewed. My name's Adam, and this week, to honour the new James Bond film coming out next month, we're going to look at the top 10 James Bond themes and songs. I'd be embarrassed to tell you how many times I've watched every James Bond film. It's kind of my comfort viewing, but ever since my dad took me into the cinema when I was a kid to watch a Bond film, I've been enthralled by the whole world of Bond ever since, and I'm sure there are many of you watching who feel exactly the same way. The music itself, I think, was a really, really important part of the James Bond world. Not just the theme, the James Bond theme, but, you know, after the gun barrel sequence and the opening sequence, then suddenly you'd have these fantastic credits and this exotic, kind of intoxicating, exciting music. It seemed very, very sophisticated to a young kid. And really, it's part of the whole immersive experience of those movies. I guess in many ways, you know, I was sitting there just sort of drunk on excitement, you know, hoping that my parents would let me stay up to watch those movies, and then just letting all of that, the colour and the action and excitement and the music just wash over me. I've chosen for this list sort of any song or piece of music that was written as part of the soundtrack for the Bond movies. And of course, this isn't the 10 best Bond themes. It's my 10 favourite, and you're not going to agree with me. We all have our favourite James Bond songs, and that's what the comments beneath are for. So hopefully we can have a good old discussion about it afterwards. But look, let's get into it. So at number 10 from 2006 film Casino Royale, it's Chris Cornell with "You Know My Name." So of course doesn't have the same title as the film, but this was the song that was used over the fantastic opening credits. And James Bond was in the throes of a reboot at this point. The Brosnan films had kind of descended into silliness, really, and a lot of people felt they'd jumped the shark with the invisible car and windsurfing, a tsunami, and all that stuff from Die Another Day. And I think Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson wanted to go back to a sort of gritty, masculine realism, or as real as Bond can be. So this was written by Chris Cornell with David Arnold. David Arnold was the Bond composer in residence at the time. And they claim they both took the brief from the producers and wrote the song separately without hearing what each other was doing. When they finally came together, they'd more or less written the same song. A song that is confident, it's strong, it reflects a very decisive character with some emotional depth. It was exactly what the producers wanted. It was a very successful song, got to number 7 in the UK, was nominated for a Grammy, and it was really well received. It's the first Bond song not to be on the film's soundtrack album. I think Chris Cornell, when it was finished, decided he wanted to keep it for his own solo album. That's a sign that he knew he was onto a good song. And number 9 from the 2012 film Skyfall, it's Adele with Skyfall. So Adele wrote this with her producer Paul Hepworth, and this was back to the sort of big diva balladry of the sort of Shirley Bassey days. Adele felt she wasn't quite right for a Bond theme, but she really, really loved the script and thought she'd give it a go. And apparently it took her 18 months to come up with something dark and personal, which is, again, what the producer's brief was. I didn't like this one at first. I thought it was a bit insipid, and I'm quite judgmental about Bond soundtracks, I have to say. But I've grown to really, really love it. It was a huge success as well as a song. Got to number 1 in 11 countries, sold 7.2 million copies. It's one of the biggest selling digital singles of all time. It's won countless awards. It's won a Golden Globe, Brits, Grammys, and of course an Academy Award. It's one of Adele's most celebrated songs, and is a big, impressive piece of her live show to this day. And number 8. From the 1969 film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's Louis Armstrong with "We Have All the Time in the World." Now, this isn't the theme song to the film. This was a song that was used in a romantic montage between George Lazenby, who'd just taken over the role from Sean Connery, and the wonderful Diana Rigg, who was playing the Countess Tracy, who eventually becomes his wife. It was written by John Barry, about whom we will talk a lot more later, and Hal David, who wrote the lyrics. The title's taken from the last line of the film, and I won't ruin it for you by telling you what happens, but it's very, very emotional. The song never charted on its original release. It was only a hit when it was re-released 25 years later, but it has been covered by many, many people over the years. Iggy Pop, Fun Loving Criminals, Alfie Boe, The Specials, and many more. Louis Armstrong was very ill when he sang the song, and I think his vulnerability and illness just adds to the sort of poignancy of a lovely piece of music. It's really moving and touching song. It's completely at odds with Bond's character, but that's sort of what's so great about On Her Majesty's Secret Service, a film I really, really love. We see a side of Bond that could only be brought out in him by a woman as magnificent as Diana Rigg, who you may know we recently very sadly lost. A lot of you may only know Diana Rigg as the Queen of Thorns from Game of Thrones, but do yourself a favour and check out the original Avengers TV series and this film. I'm not ashamed to say that she was my first crush when I was growing up. At number 7, from The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977, it's Carly Simon with Nobody Does It Better. The song was actually written by Marvin Hamlisch and Carol Bayer Sager, and it was the first Bond song not to carry the same title as the film. Now, this has a really, really special place in Bond history because, of course, this song comes in at that wonderful moment when Roger Moore skis off the cliff and he's plummeting, and then suddenly his parachute opens to reveal a Union Jack, and at just that moment, the piano tinkle comes in, and then you go into this, it can only be described as lustful power balladry, really. It's a song about a woman extolling the sexual prowess of her lover, who is, of course, James Bond. It was a huge hit for Carly Simon. It was nominated for many awards. And the American Film Institute put it at number 67 in a list of greatest songs in film they did in 2004. My badge is falling off. My Bond badge. Number 6 from the 1971 film Diamonds Are Forever. It's Shirley Bassey with Diamonds Are Forever. Another one written by John Barry. John Barry was the Bond composer in residence for many, many years until the sort of mid-80s. And he wrote a great many other wonderful pieces of music as well. Really one of the greatest English composers, I think, of all time. Not just for his Bond stuff, but he also did Dances with Wolves and the Ipcress File and many, many other fantastic bits of music, including Born Free as well, which is a lovely tune. So Diamonds Are Forever kind of lives a bit in its big brother's shadow, and you all know the song I'm talking about. But I think it's a wonderful, wonderful song. It has that mesmerizing, spiraling intro, and then that voice comes in and those words, those sort of really suggestive words. And, they're not tacky or cheap. I think that with Bassey's vocal, they're kind of more classy and sophisticated. They're more erotic as opposed to sexual. And that's because this is superior songwriting, lyrically, particularly. Harry Saltzman, who is Cubby Broccoli's partner in production of the early Bond films, he hated the song and all the innuendos, but Cubby Broccoli fought for it and got his way. And the song ended up being a perfect accompaniment to a good film, I thought, and a big song for Shirley Bassey throughout her entire career. So we get to the top 5. Now, these are 5 of my favourite pieces of music of all time. It's impossible to disassociate them from the Bond films. There's certainly that caveat in there. But if I was doing a Desert Island Disc, which may be an idea for a show going forward, I would have to have one of these pieces of music on there. I can't really separate them. They're all very, very profoundly linked with my own kind of musical journey and education, and I'm sure for many of you as well. But look, let's get into it. At number 5 from 1973, it's Live and Let Die, from Live and Let Die, by Paul McCartney and Wings. It's actually written by Paul and Linda McCartney and produced, of course, by George Martin. This was very unformulaic for a Bond film, with its calypso midsection and its long instrumental passages. But it's a very, very powerful song. And of course, it's been covered by a number of people and was a huge hit for Guns N' Roses many, many years ago. Of all the Bond songs, this one probably has the healthiest life outside of Bond. You still hear it on the radio an awful lot. It's still regarded as a sort of rock classic as much as anything else. And it's stayed in Paul McCartney's live set all these years. And in fact, it's actually a really explosive highlight of his live set. At number 4, from 1964 film Goldfinger. It is Goldfinger by Shirley Bassey. So this is the big brother to Diamonds Are Forever. This is probably the most famous of all the Bond themes, thanks to one of the most popular and highly regarded Bond films, and also Shirley Bassey's fantastic vocal on this. It's written by John Barry with lyrics by Leslie Bricusse. And in many ways, it's kind of the archetypal Bond theme, the kind of thing that's been parodied 1,000 times, not least by sort of the Scorpio song from The Simpsons. It's a powerful, sort of sweeping piece of music. It's got the huge brass riff. John Barry was more famous as a string arranger, but he wanted to get the brass in there, the gold brass, to sort of reflect the gold and, you know, the sort of big kind of portly Goldfinger with those big brassy sounds. You can't overstate the importance of Bassey's vocal on here, which is absolutely fantastic. It's sexy, it's mischievous, it's diva-ish. She hits that incredible note at the end. Her pronunciation is fantastic. So Shirley Bassey really was, you know, as good as it got when it came to sort of Bond performers. And actually, I really liked the song Moonraker as well, which is an honourable mention on this. I mean, nobody has a clue what that song's about, but actually the melody I thought was really beautiful. And of course, her vocal was fantastic as always. At number 3, from You Only Live Twice from 1967. It is, of course, Nancy Sinatra with You Only Live Twice. Again, written by the legendary John Barry with lyrics by Leslie Bricusse. Of all the Bond themes, this, I think, is the one that takes me back to my childhood. This is the one I hear where I am that kid sitting in front of the TV, been on my best behaviour all day. My parents have let me stay up to watch the Bond film. And then you have that sort of swirling string notes, those swirling string notes, before it just sort of waterfalls into one of the most beautiful string motifs you've ever heard. Sung by Nancy Sinatra. And it's said that she had to do multiple takes of this vocal and that she never quite got it right, so they had to cut and paste loads of different versions. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I think the vocal's very fitting. I think Shirley Bassey would have sung the living daylights out of this song. See what I did there? But Nancy Sinatra's vocal is more vulnerable. It's sweeter, and I think, dare I say it, it's sexier because of it. I think it's another absolute masterclass in composition and string arrangement. I find it, you know, completely exhilarating and heartbreaking when we go into that string motif. It's very powerful, and although it was annoyingly sampled by aging Brit pop boy band bad guy Robbie Williams for his hit Millennium, the song for me is absolutely timeless. It hasn't lost any of its power at all, and I must have heard this piece of music 1,001 times. At number 2, from 1962, it is the James Bond theme itself, which was originally from Dr. No, but has been used in various incarnations ever since. Now, who wrote this? It's generally accepted that Monty Norman wrote this piece of music, but there is some debate about that, because actually it's very similar to an Adam Faith song called Poor Me from 1960, which was written and arranged by, you guessed it, John Barry. So although Monty Norman's done very well out of this, it was John Barry who actually came in and arranged the theme, which is crucial. The theme itself, well, I think there are a few, if any, more iconic, instantly recognisable trio of notes in all of music. You know, it starts with this mysterious, sinister 3 notes, and then Vic Flick comes in with his guitar lick, and then the whole thing lifts off into some sort of fantastic, exciting, swaggering jazz crescendo. It's brassy and it's sexy and it's confident and swaggers. It was perfect for the time, and it was perfect for the film. It just took the world out of their sort of late 50s, early 60s black and white monochrome into this exotic, exciting international world of espionage and culture. It was wonderful. I wasn't there. I'm not that old, but you know, I gather these things from repeated viewings, and and lots of reading. But you know, the piece of music itself has been reimagined and rearranged many times for all the Bond films, often in the style of the indigenous music to the location they're filming in. And I love that. It's a piece of music that's very easily adaptable and often very effective when they do that. Throughout the years, it's also been attached onto other Bond songs and dropped into parts here and there. But in this, you know, absolutely a good example is the beginning of Help, from the Help film. They do the Bond theme at the beginning of that. So, you know, it's been honoured, parodied, made fun of, saluted. It's that big a piece of music. It's everywhere. You can't live on this planet really. In the Western world and avoid hearing this piece of music at some point. And why would you want to? It's fantastic. Okay, but number one on my list is from 1969. It's from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it is the theme to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I choose this not only because I think it's one of the greatest pieces of film music ever written. I think it's one of my favourite pieces of music ever written, and I also choose it as a salute to John Barry himself. This isn't a song, it's a theme. And it really is, for me, one of the most exciting, brilliant pieces of music I think I ever heard. Now, legend has it that Cubby Broccoli went to John Barry and said, look, we've got a new Bond. Connery had left. He was going to come back for Diamonds Are Forever, but they didn't know this. George Lazenby had come in. He was a model, not an actor, and Cubby Broccoli was getting cold feet. And he went to John Barry and said, John, you really need to pull something out of the bag here. We want some fantastic music that's just going to lift this film. And Barry was feeling the pressure. And he worked very hard on this one. But boy, did he come up with something. It starts with those classic descending bass notes and then those imperious horns over the top, with the counter melody. It's quite unusual for Barry to work with horns so much because he was really so famous as a string man. But you know, he was so on his game with this piece of music. And then the theme sort of just moves through the passages with it just has an exhilarating abandon to it before it regroups back to the sort of main theme in just the most sublime way. If you haven't heard it, go and check it out now. You'll recognize it. It's been sampled before. It's been covered before. I think Propellerheads did a very famous and successful sort of techno version of the piece. But John Barry himself, he died 10, 15 years ago, I think. I was very lucky to see him conducting at the Albert Hall all the James Bond themes. It's one of my favourite concerts I've ever been to. As I said, he did Born Free, The Ipcress File, Dances with Wolves, many other great films. But I don't think really, for me, you know, when you combine the images and the world of Bond with the music he did for Bond, he never did anything better than particularly the 3 or 4 top songs on this list here. Other honourable mentions, I quite liked GoldenEye, Tina Turner, of course Tom Jones, Thunderball, Matt Monro from Rush with Love. They're you know, great pieces of music. They didn't quite make the top 10 here. Dishonourable mentions, there are quite a few as well. I wasn't a massive fan of the Sheryl Crow's music, the piece she did, and I wasn't a massive fan of Garbage's either. I thought the Brosnan years were a bit insipid, and they descended into something completely inappropriate when Madonna did Die Another Day, and I quite like Madonna at times, but that was a car crash, I thought, of a theme. But look, as I said, we've all got our favourite Bond themes, and I'm absolutely dying to know what yours are so we can discuss it. If you're half as big a Bond fan as me, we're going to get very passionate about it. But it was a lot of fun doing this one and going back to all these fantastic pieces of music. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon for another Rock Records review. Thank you. Bye-bye. Records review.